3.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I'm the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, movie critic and editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com. And today, we are doing not top 3, but top 5.
Yes.
We got bonuses.
We lied in the title, basically.
We lied in the title. We are doing top 5 soundtracks not by John Williams.
Which is pretty easy for me, because most of my soundtracks are video games.
Well, he did get involved with some of the video games just because he has that rule that if you use his music at all, it has to be him who's conducting it and his version of it.
Yeah.
So all the Star Wars games, essentially, he was involved with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
We've got a lot of material to go through, obviously, because we're doing top 5. That's fun. There's like 2 more than usual each, so that's like 4 total. For those of you who can't count, and for those of you who can, I've just been incredibly condescending.
Oh, wait, go back again. I don't have my calculator here. Okay, yeah, I follow you. Good.
Oh, good. In that case, you can go first.
All right. My number 5, kind of unusual for me because I'm really a Nintendo guy. But I'm gonna go Sega Genesis, which had great music back then.
Yeah, and it can do what Nintendo.
Exactly, with blast processing. It was a game called Streets of Rage 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much a beat 'em up, kind of like Double Dragon style. And it had awesome, like, pretty much dance music, almost. It really got you in the mood to, like, punching people in the face, really. It was really
Dance music gets you in the mood to punch people
But
in the
it was
face.
really actiony, and it really have you want to move and, get going and, let's beat those guys up so we can keep going. It was really helpful in you wanting to move forward with the game. It was, I don't know, the best way to describe it, it was really actiony.
Yeah, let's listen to a little bit of it. So yeah, I can see what you mean. And I agree with you, like that the techno beat thing about wanting to beat people up. I agree with it. Like I didn't pick it as one of my choices just because the rest of the soundtrack's not so great. But like the theme from Mortal Kombat,
Yes.
like the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, like it gets me in the mood to want to like
Yes.
punch people in the face. Really, is what it is.
I guess we just need to stay away from dance clubs. Dangerous for other people.
And now we know why people get beat up in clubs and whatnot. It's not because some guy checked out the wrong girl and people behaving like idiots. No. It's the techno music.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Violence in video games, forget about it. Violence in horror movies and whatnot, gun control, no. Techno music control.
There'd be riots. dancing riots. Because... with that, what is your number 5?
My number 5, I'm also going video game for once. It's rare with me.
Wow.
Yeah. Also 16-bit era, but it's something that Nintendo don't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I'm going with Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Really long name, but there you have it.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing it because it's one of the first games, if not the first game, that took like the 8-bit classical theme from, in this case, Mario, and turned it into this sort of almost orchestral thing for the game. And the mixes are really good. Like it's become sort of a tradition with Mario to do that.
Yeah.
But none are as good to me as what they did the first time around with Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, I love those games that they understand where the first game came from, and every iteration they just keep improving and improving and improving upon them. One that's not on my list, a couple actually that are not on my list for that, is our Metroid and Castlevania. They know where their first game came from. They know they have great musics, and let's just jazz it up for the previous one. But to have people hear what you're talking about, this is what the Mario jazzed up theme sounds like.
Yes, well, let's go with the Underground theme, which is actually my favorite in the bunch. So there you have it. It's you can see the drums behind it, this sort of march added to it, and like I find like that's a great creation too.
Yeah, and the underground theme was always the better one, you know. So
It really is.
yeah,
Little story. Nick and I used to drive my girlfriend utterly nuts with that.
we don't know why. It's just we noticed it drove her nuts, so we just kept humming that tune over and over
I
again.
know. And we were at her place, and we're just like going on and on, like no 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 no. And she was like, "Stop it, stop it!" And then her roommate came in and goes like, "Oh, this looks fun," and she started doing it with us. No 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 no. Alright, what is your number 4 pick for a best soundtrack not by John Williams?
Again, it's surprising because I'm going for Genesis again. I'm going for Sonic 3.
Ah,
And this one has a weird legend around it that Sega had tasked Michael Jackson to do the soundtrack.
oh.
And he worked on the songs a lot. And he basically gave them the music, but he didn't want his name associated with it because the Genesis didn't have like good quality sound, like well according to his standards. He still let them have the music, which was pretty cool. And it ends up with a soundtrack that's just so great that you play the game not because it's a great game, you just play the game for the soundtrack because it's great. And you want to get to the next level just to see what the next song is about.
Oh, actually, let's listen to it a bit for a minute.
Okay.
The music in Sonic actually has generally always been pretty good.
Yeah.
And the reason for that usually is because it rips off some of the current hits. It tended to do that,
Yeah.
like Sonic 1 and 2 especially. It's like there's a lot of recognizable pop songs of the day that are in there.
Yeah.
But this one, yeah, like I see what you mean. Like first of all, it doesn't sound like another pop song that I've heard from the time, so it sounds a little bit fresher, more original.
Yeah. Again, this is all unconfirmed because Michael Jackson didn't want to put his name on it, but there's very good evidence that it's all from him. So it's high quality music, even better than the ones on his own video game. Actually,
Oh, Moonwalker was terrible.
I mean the game is terrible, and his versions of the songs are just it's not there. It's not there yet. They should have waited maybe one system later to have to be able to appreciate his music. But here, he still kind of saw what he had to work with, and he composed perfectly with what he had.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
What
What is your number 4?
Oh, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
My number 4. Okay, we're going back to movies, dude.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. And I'm going to go with a superhero thing. I'm going with the music by Danny Elfman for Batman Returns.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, I love it. Like, okay, I could have easily have gone for the original Batman because
Yeah.
some of the themes are the same. The theme for Batman, like, it's one of the iconic musical sounds of my youth.
Yeah.
For me. Like da, 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 da. It's brilliant. And Batman Returns, what it does, it takes that and just sort of adds a little bit to it, a little bit of melancholy because the movie was a little bit sadder, essentially. And I love it. Like just the opening scene where you have just the Penguin's baby basket just going under the sewer, and there's just a Batman theme playing over it. It's brilliant. Listen to it.
When did that song originate? Was it like written, composed for the first time for the original Batman, or was that from something before that? Because I know the '70s Batman did not sound like that at all. I mean,
No, Danny Elfman totally came up with that for the 1989 Batman movie.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. It's as brilliant as John Williams, who we're not allowed to take, Superman theme.
Yeah. And basically that theme has been used like later on for other stuff too. So it's pretty much what's attached to Batman right now.
Yeah. Alright, your number 3 pick for best soundtrack not by John Williams.
It's fine. I will also venture in movies then, since you went that way. Normally I don't enjoy music in movies that much. I think it kind of takes me out of the movie itself. Because when I'm talking to you, for example, there's no music that just stops popping in the background. unless somebody has MTV really loud in the next room, but that doesn't happen. So
If it were to happen, would it make you happy or sad?
it depends on the tone of the music, really. It'd be awesome if we're having like this serious conversation. There's this serious music that plays, and we start goofing around, and then it's like comedic music. But I like the soundtrack in this movie because it pretty much just sets the tone for the scene. You know, you basically have this panning shot of where they are, and then the music plays, and say, "Oh, this is where we are now," and it's the music for Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and it's actually it's hits from those periods every time.
Exactly.
Any favorite song in there?
Joe, you're putting them on the spot because I love that whole soundtrack. I like Doobie Brothers actually a lot. So that song, you know, they didn't take their best songs from them, but that is a good song from them. You know, Jefferson Airplane as well before they became Starship and Lame. Great song from them. So you get to appreciate them, you know, in the past when they were cool. But yeah, the whole music is basically to set the tone. This scene takes place then, and this is appropriate music for that scene, you know?
Yeah, well, let's listen to the Jefferson Airplane one for all of 8 seconds, people.
Yeah.
So much of that movie is filmmaking that really works. Like everybody that has read the book will tell you, great movie, awful book.
Okay.
And I think it's because the movie is elevated by the filmmaking, and part of the filmmaking is, as you say, the economy of language used in communicating the different eras by using the music of that era.
Maybe if they had the book on tape or something, it would be awesome. But no, I see what you're saying. You can save so many pages of reading just by having, hey, you know, this is a war song. They're in Vietnam, so this sets the tone perfectly for that, you know. So I can totally see that. So what is your number 3?
My number 3, I'm also going with Batman again.
Oh wow!
Yeah, two Batmans, one podcast. Woo! And I'm actually going with the soundtrack from The Dark Knight. For me, when Danny Elfman did the music from Batman and Batman Returns, it was impossible to beat. In fact, the music from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, even though they got U2 involved in it and whatnot, like it just did not pass muster.
Okay.
You know?
I like their first song though, you know, the U2 Hold Me, Kiss Me, Thrill Me, whatever.
Yeah, it's a cool song.
It's a great song. It's just the rest of it, it's so forgettable though.
Yeah, it's true. And but even as good as a song as it is a fun song. It doesn't hold a candle to the power that Danny Elfman's March has. And so Michael Kamen was sort of like really challenged with coming up with something completely different for Batman. And I think he succeeded. I think The Dark Knight has one of the single best musical scores in movies, period.
Okay. Let's hear all of it from it then.
Yes, let's do that. For those of you who haven't identified where this piece is, that's the scene where Batman is fighting the cops because the cops think that the hostages are actually the terrorists, and he's trying to get them to stop, and they're not listening. So, and here's what's great about it: you have like the basic Batman theme, like from Batman Begins, which is a march, exactly like sort of like in the same vein as Danny Elfman's, but a little bit more modest. Yeah. And then there's a sort of a darkness coming in the middle of it that's kind of dark, and then you get the sense of like, okay, it's suspense, it's action, it's coming, and then you have like the da-da-da, which you've heard, guys, da-da-da, and it's sort of like heroism seeping through that tension just the same, and it sort of communicates the idea of like how torn Batman is about beating cops, but that's the heroic thing to do, because the hero doesn't just beat the bad guys, he saves the good guys, and if that's what he has to do, that's what he has to do.
He's the hero they need, not the one they deserve.
Yeah, but the music communicates that. That's what I love about it.
Oh, that's really cool. I hadn't even thought about that, but listening to it, it's like, and seeing that scene again, it makes sense.
Yeah, And of course, there's a Joker theme as well, which is just like that single note that's just like dissonant, like. Yeah, we're not playing a sample, people. Only one sample per entry.
Yeah, less than 8 seconds as well.
Exactly. And it's like it's such a weird, but it's such a great choice for essentially this nihilist, chaotic character that he doesn't get a song; he gets noise.
Yeah,
I love that.
I didn't really notice it that much in the movie because again, I tried to not focus on that. But when you listen to it separately, it's like, yeah, I can see that being the Joker completely. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your number 2 pick for best soundtrack, not by John Williams.
Well, mine comes from a franchise, very popular franchise, the Mega Man franchise. It's an 8-bit symphony playing those games. They really put so much effort in the music, and every time you start a new level, it's like really engaging music that this is pretty cool. It's feast for your ears really as you're trying to play through the game. And I think Mega Man 2 really is pretty much the sum up of the series. The other ones after that are good as well, but Mega Man 2 really kind of raised the bar for every other video game. You listen to the songs there, and like they could be, okay, I might be exaggerating a bit, but they could be released as pop songs almost, at least as the background.
Well, to a degree they have, right? I mean, you're the one who recommended to me the band The Mini Bosses.
That's true. And they just play the music, and it sounds like great music. You could just add lyrics, and you'd have a regular song there.
Yeah. Oh, just so people know what we're talking about, let's listen to a bit from the 8-bit music of Mega Man 2.
And what you just heard there is like the first level of Dr. Wily. So you beat like the 8 robot bosses, and you reach Dr. Wily's stage, and that music just shocked the hell out of me the first time I heard it. It's like, wow, just shit has gotten real now. I have to beat this guy, and it's like the music has gotten so like fast paced, and it's like, yeah, now you're in trouble now.
I find it amazing how much you can achieve with the limitations of 8-bit music.
Yeah.
Like it's so limited. The sounds are all terribly robotic.
Yeah.
And like even the drum doesn't sound quite like a drum. It sounds more like a tape skipping.
Yeah.
And yet like that you can create these things just the same, to me is amazing.
And the thing is, they're so unique. And I think we've lost a little bit of it in video games now that we use MP3s and actual real music. It's something that we're not going to get back. For this time, some people might think it's crummy or it's low tech, but it's just so different. And something's been lost as we've gotten better, more realistic sounding music, I feel.
Yeah, I can see that because there's a certain purity to it, and you're forced to go and construct an actual strong melody and not rely on beats or like the standard techno beat that you can put under any crap song that will make it at least lively. You can't rely on that with 8-bit. You actually have to freaking compose something.
Exactly. And the fact that you had like all these boss levels and they made them all different, and then you have the last stage, the Dr. Wily stage, like you had many different areas and they're all different as well. And you're like, that must have been so much work in a time where the cartridge's memory was so limited. They really let's focus on the music. Let's make it good. Very, very impressive on their part. So what is your number 2?
My number 2, still in the movies, I am going with a classic.
Okay.
I'm going with Bill Conti's music for Rocky.
Oh,
the entire Rocky series, really.
Okay.
Well, the Vince Nicola stuff from Rocky 4 we can probably skip, but
You don't like Hearts on Fire?
Actually, you know what? I kind of like it,
Okay.
and I like a lot of the Vince Nicola thing, but like, I'm focusing on the Bill Conti.
Okay.
The Vince Nicola thing from Rocky 4 is fantastic, but it also sounds incredibly like his work for Transformers the movie, and it's a little bit distracting.
Good point. I had not noticed that. Now I did. You ruined it for me.
Alright, I'm gonna choose a track from Rocky 2 specifically, so that we can talk about that one in detail. Here it is, guys. what you just heard, I'm sorry, is essentially a variation of the basic Rocky theme, like da 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 da. But he slowed down the beat and he sort of added the trumpets going up as if it's going against the current. And when I was listening to that, just like from the CD, like not from the movie, I got the sense of like somebody waiting, going against the current, having to fight just to move forward. Like that's why it goes slow and then fast and then slow and then fast. And like when it's up and towards success, it goes fast and back down, and then it has to build up again every time.
Okay.
And it gave me that sense of like having to fight to get somewhere. And then I read the name of the track, Redemption.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Yeah, and I find that amazing that Bill Conti can like know what I'm gonna feel from listening to a bunch of notes.
That's why he's a professional.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what amazes me about musical scores like that.
Yeah, and that also, those movies like that may be an exception to my rules of not liking music in movies, because, a training montage requires music. If not, it's completely ridiculous. It's just one guy doing exercises, and you really need that music to make it, to lift it up. Mm. And I think in Rocky, the music pretty much invented the training montage.
It really did.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's trying to do another one after that, but you cannot beat Rocky and his music training. There's no other movie I can think of where, oh no, this training montage was even better than Rocky's. No, I have not seen that happen, like, ever.
I agree.
Maybe Dodgeball, but that's completely different.
I agree, and I agree also that it's largely associated to the music, because I dare you to listen to the Rocky soundtrack without wanting to train.
That is true. Yeah. Just like the Streets of Rage before, you want to punch something, when you hear that music.
I kid you not, I have it on my MP3 player when I go running, when I go exercising, like that's the music I listen to, and if no other music will do, because I am a lazy mofo, and I need motivation everywhere I can get, and like that music actually provides it for me.
Nice. Do you do Pilates on the Rockies team? Because that'd be weird.
I actually do.
Oh wow.
Like I have the Pilates video, and write your comments about my sexuality below. And at first, you have to listen to the lady because she's telling you how to do it on the video. But after a while, so you don't need to listen to her. And more importantly, you don't want to listen to her because her voice is grating as all hell. She's like, going one more. And it's because, Pilates is mostly built for women, like as an exercise program.
Okay.
And I'm a dude. And so my center of gravity is not at the same place. For all the parts that she thinks is easy, it's like ridiculously hard for me, and vice versa. Like the part she goes like, "Oh, you're really gonna have to give an effort." I'm like, "Whatever, dude. I'm Superman." Until we get to the easy part, and then I'm crying.
Nice.
So you don't want to listen to her because she's like, "So we're gonna take it easy. I'm just gonna do that." So as you can see, it's really easy, and like I'm like there sweating bullets, barely maintaining the position. Go like, "No, it's not, you bitch. I hate you. I hate you." So yeah, the Rocky thing is working out better for me.
Nice. Makes sense.
On that terribly personal note, let's go to your top pick for best soundtrack not by John Williams.
Again, from another franchise, Final Fantasy franchise this time, which has now up to 13 entries, I think. One kind of in the middle of the road, Final Fantasy 6 or 3 if you're American, because they didn't release all of them. But let's just call it Final Fantasy 3, because that's where most of our viewers are American. They know by that. And it's spectacular. Each character has its theme, and you have let me just count them real quick, 14 characters. And each time they come in and out, you have their music playing, and when something important happens to them, as their character evolves, again their music, and then you have music for places as well. So you go different places, different music, and they're all great. And especially the bad guy has great music. That guy called Kefka. We're going to listen to it now. Basically makes him sound totally non-threatening and more like a clown. especially the beginning. But if you go later in the song, it becomes like really dark and threatening, and you're like, okay, maybe he means business. And that's kind of like his character is at the beginning. You see him as a complete clown. You know, he dresses like a clown. he says like stupid lines. You tell him to wait, and he's like, "Well, you look like a waiter," and he runs away. It's just really silly things that happens. And nonetheless, he manages to destroy the world. So, he's a clown that beats your ass, and you have to basically, fight your way back and, be able to beat him. It's just, the music adds such a great depth to everything in that game.
That's an interesting pick. Again, like I talked about how amazed I am at 8-bit, and like 16-bit, you can see like just a generation later how much more versatility you have just with the technology.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that it's not quite what it is today,
exactly,
where you have no limit, but you have a lot more options than
I know. It's still kind of sounds computerish, but it's so much closer to real instruments. I mean, I remember being blown away the first time you hear the theme. It's like, did they record instruments on here? What is this? It was really weird. But yeah, it's like 16-bit again. You were getting closer to like the next gen, where now they just use MP3s. It was the beginning of the end for the what they call the nerdcore music. But you still have great classics, and I think Final Fantasy 3 is the best one of the Super Nintendo.
It's far less standard and therefore more interesting to me than what would become classics with Final Fantasy 8 and on, where it's like full-on orchestral MP3 essentially.
Yeah.
And yes, you get that sense of epicness, and it's like, but almost in a cliched sort of way.
Yes.
Of course you have like the choir that's saying stuff that sounds Latin but isn't.
Yes. Just made up words. And of course the name of the bad guy repeatedly. This is just, you're trying to make the guy look too cool. It doesn't work. Whereas as a contrast, in here you make the bad guy look like a clown at first, so I think it's a lot more effective.
Yeah, it's what it comes down to is that it's more creative. That's an interesting number one pick for me, because it's not about the sophistication of it, but it really is about the creativity of it. Like, yes, the technology is limited to 16-bit.
Yeah.
Yes, it's computer soundery, and you can't really get away from that. And yes, there's so much more money dumped into the Final Fantasy games today.
Yeah.
But so much less creativity. It's so safe that it's forgettable, that it's not engaging.
Yeah, let's make every character super cool and every music make them sound super awesome, and then where's the diversity? Is the thing. So yeah, you need to go back to really see the creativity.
No, I get what you're saying.
So what is your number one?
My number one pick is a movie.
Okay.
And it's actually one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm not saying it's one of the best movies ever made, but one of my all-time favorites.
Okay.
And I am talking about P.T. Anderson's Magnolia.
Okay.
For those of you who are not familiar with the movie, it stars a whole bunch of actors, including Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise and Julianne Moore and William H. Macy, all as miserable people.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of make sense of their lives and why they're miserable and their lives intersecting.
Yeah, by miserable we don't mean like terrible, like evil. We just mean like sad, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sad, pathetic, a little bit,
Yeah, pathetic is actually the right word for these characters.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, it's not their fault. They've just been handed a raw deal.
Yeah, I know.
And they're connected by sometimes, like, one happens to be the cousin of the other or not, and sometimes not. Like, they're not really connected lives, and yet the movie feels as a unity because of the soundtrack. John Bryan's music in that is so beautiful in creating the idea of a human symphony.
Okay.
Like, you've seen a lot of people try it. Like, I think Michael Kamen tried it with Mr. Holland's Opus, which is about an opus that encompasses all his life, and it feels a little bit fakey, and it lacks a little bit of humanity, but I find John Bryan's score in Magnolia really captures that sort of ensemble and that warmth that the movie goes for, and therefore, for me, touches me more. Well, here's a little bit. That bit's called Library, and it's the bit when the kid, who's a boy genius at a game show, studying at the library and somehow melds into Julianne Moore trying to get drugs when she's because she's having trouble with depression, but the pharmacist is not buying it.
Yeah.
And then melds into all the other storylines. So here we go. So you get that sense like in the background there's the march, and so like as if we're going towards something, as if our destinies are not wasted. We are heading something, and at the front is that sort of flute and violin mix of just like this unbearable sadness that's at the top, that's sort of almost hiding the march, which is sort of what the characters are going through. Their misery is so deep that they're not seeing where they're headed. And
Okay.
like that sort of stuff I find amazing.
Yeah, I didn't notice that soundtrack that much. The only thing I noticed from that movie, unfortunately, I didn't like. It was like, I think it was Sheryl Crow singing "One Is the Loneliest Number."
It is Amy Mann,
Amy
actually.
Mann, sorry. Yeah. And that lasted for way too long.
But it's because, I get what you're saying. The actual recording is like something like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But the scene in the movie that plays that is something like 6 or 7 minutes. Yeah. So they played the freaking thing on a loop.
Yes, and after the 12th one is the loneliest number. It's like, I get it. Sing something different.
It's a little bit heavy-handed as well when it's the first song that they use to unify the different storylines, and it's called One is the loneliest number. So you have one as in unity and loneliness, what the characters are going through. It's like, wow, you're hitting that nail hard, you know?
For 7 minutes.
So I totally agree how you feel about that. Although the track itself is actually quite nice. I like that song. The score, the musical score is written by John Bryan. Yeah. The rest of the soundtrack is written by Amy Mann herself with Fiona Apple.
Okay.
Which, like, wow, 3 of these people working together, I'm all in. And I agree with you that that track that you're talking about, One is the one that stands out as being the most obnoxious, and not coincidentally, it's the one song that is actually a cover of another song. It wasn't written for the movie.
Okay.
And it's the only song in the movie that's not written for the movie. And I think that's why it stands out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the one that I really noticed. And when I really notice something, it's like, this does not fit well with the rest. Like I said, the rest of the soundtrack probably melded so well with the thing that I didn't really notice it. And that's how I like my soundtracks. Just add a little bit extra to the mood, but don't come to the forefront for me to notice it and get me out of the movie.
So on that note, I guess.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, comments, you want to share with us your favorite songs and soundtracks, please write us at mail@idiomatic.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. We're also on iTunes. And if you could like us on Facebook, that would be super cool, awesome. Until then, we'll see you on the next top 3.
Or top 5.
Or 4. Or 1, because it is the loneliest number.
Oh, God. Wow. Yeah, you went back there. All right, see you next time.